Okay, next thing is Likert scales. Yes, that's the guy's name is Likert, not Likert. We love this. Everybody loves Likert scales. There's a couple of things to keep in mind about this is normally you will see 5 choices. Sometimes you'll see one with 4 choices. I've seen these with 7 choices. I've seen them with 9 choices. I'll guarantee you, you cannot decide any topic like I'll stay overtime and finish the job even if I'm not paid for it, down to a split of 7 degrees. It's just impossible to figure out how far down to slice that and end up with any information that's useful at all. So there's 2 things about this. People tend to go back to 5 points or 4 points. With 5 points, what you end up doing is you end up with an either you agree or disagree right here. With 4 points, that's called a forced choice survey. That they have got to decide which side of this they're on. Are they on the agree side or the disagree side? The downside of using a 5 point scale is you'll have a lot of people who will fall right there because they don't really want to be forced into doing one or the other. The downside of having a forced choice survey is they are forced to pick something. They're going to have to decide which side of this issue they're on, whether it's agree or disagree. With the risk with that is that you will have people that may not want to participate because they don't want to be caught up into actually having to make a decision about something. The other challenge that I see with this, and I've never really taken the time to figure out how to get around it, is trying to tell people understand if I put strongly agree, what does that mean? If I put agree, what does that mean? If you think back about the old PDAS or the T-test, when, for what it's worth, when they developed those, they did put on there, if it's 80 to 99%, what exactly was supposed to be occurring to get that level on, and that is a Likert scale, to be able to be at that level. And I really think that we would owe it to ourselves as researchers to put some kind of definition of, if you strongly agree, this is what it means. If it's something that occurs most of the time, that means that it occurs 80% of the time. It occurs 20 hours a week, to give some kind of scale, because without that, what I consider agree, somebody else might call strongly agree. And really, if you were to talk to us individually and using our interviewing skills, you probably find out that we actually feel exactly the same way about it. But we're putting 2 different answers on here, which is throwing off our results. So even though we really like these Likert scales, they really do have a lot of limitations to them. And I really question how well we can interpret the data from that. So here's another issue. And again, these are very simple things that we think that we understand, but not necessarily, and they're hard to catch. So here's this statement. I would approve of internet dating by my relatives and friends. These are 2 different groups. You're asking a person a question about 2 different things. They might be okay with this, but not with this. But you've put them in a position that they can't separate those 2 things. So again, when you write your questions, you need to have somebody else check them. And I don't mean just one person. You need to have multiple people go through those to make sure that what you're getting at can be answered. So if we want to measure something like job satisfaction, obviously we can do that. We have a scale for that. And we can put something as simple as, I'm satisfied with my job. The downside of this is, I'm satisfied with my job. Is it really, is that that simple of a question to answer? And it's not. There are certain criteria that go into helping people understand, helping us understand to what extent people are satisfied with their job, because as we've recently learned, there are many criteria that go into this job satisfaction. So really what we want is a scale to be able to do that. So the kids. So if we ask the question, do you like doing your math homework? That could be simply a yes or no question. Or we could say circle true or false for each statement. I enjoy doing my math homework. That's either true or false. This statement down here gives the connotation that there's a right or wrong answer to this. Because if I put true, that means that somehow that may be right. If I put false, that somehow may be wrong. So it's really, in that situation, it's probably better to ask the question, do you like doing your math homework, yes or no? And we wouldn't want to ask that with just one question. We'd want to ask multiple questions to really being able to understand how kids feel about doing their math homework. So I want you to try a few. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a Google Sheet on your groups and give you a chance to figure out how to construct something like this where you're trying to gather factual information. That's the exercise we're going to do for Module 5. The other exercise that we'll do is going to be face-to-face. We're practicing interviewing questions, and all that Saturday we'll also review information that we need for completing the midterm exam.